Hello readers, I'm Amy and it is time for my haul revisit for winter. So every 2 seasons I look back at the books that I bought 2 seasons previously. Have I read them? Have I not read them? Did I DNF them? Did I get rid of them? We gotta see. And then whatever I haven't read that I still need to, I try and read by the next season or by the end of the next season, so that I feel a little less guilty about my book buying habits. And the idea is that if I don't read it, then I should really just give it up, because probably not going to read it at this point. It's been a little hard, but I haven't had to give up too many things. I've been better about trying to just read what I'm purchasing. It's still a hard habit to get into, as anyone who is obsessed with books knows, but let's go ahead and get this started. There is one book here. I'll just start with this. I mentioned Deenie in my winter haul. I don't think I mentioned Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. At least not in the quick skim through that I did in my video. So maybe I said it, maybe I didn't. I don't think I did. But anyways, I got Deenie and Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I was listening to this as an audiobook from the library, and I never listened to it as a kid, and I loved it, so I just got a copy of it. So I don't necessarily need to read this. I got it because I loved it, and yeah, it's on my shelf. This one, I have a pretty emotional review of this book. Again, I loved this. I did a video talking about my scoliosis and how much I related to this book. So if you are up for some emotions, link to review in the corner. Elantris is my second Brandon Sanderson reading. Technically my fourth, but the other one was a series. Really enjoyed this. I think I might have actually liked Elantris more than Mistborn. I love that it's a standalone fantasy, at least for now, because I'm just starting to get into fantasy. I'm really liking Brandon Sanderson, but I'm put off by fantasy because of how many series there are and how huge the series are. So this gave me the light fantasy read that I really needed at the time, that I was really in the mood for it, without having to dedicate myself to a whole series. Loved it. Read it. The Flicker of Old Dreams. I got this at a local bookstore, and again, absolutely loved it. This is about a small town embalmer who's considering getting out of her town, and there is this accident that happened years ago, and everyone still really looks down on the brother of the boy who died, and she's looking at that and being like, why do we hate on this person? And this doesn't make my town look all that great. I really loved this. If you're here for some small town vibes, definitely get Flicker of Old Dreams. It was well written. I loved the story. The embalmer part, just whenever I read about it, gave me Caitlin Doughty vibes. And if you know who Caitlin Doughty is, she's quite beloved. Helter Skelter. I have not read this yet. You can't really see the cover here, but it's like a really faded out. I think it used to be red, and I just happen to like this cover, but it's this thick little mass paperback. It's a true crime. I haven't read a bunch of true crime. In Cold Blood, which is another one that I have at the bottom of this pile, is the only true crime that I can think that I've actually read. So I do need to read this in the next couple of months, because responsibility. And in that same haul, I had also gotten When Rabbit Howls, which if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I just unhauled it. It was long, it was rambly, it felt disjointed. So far, dissociative identity disorder stories just aren't really hitting it for me. Like, the writing, it just feels disjointed, feels unorganized, and maybe that's a reflection on the person, I don't know, but it's not working out for me right now. Then we have Ray Bradbury, The Martian Chronicles. I was hoping to read this in Sci-Fi July. I kept thinking this will be the classic that I pick up. And then I got distracted, because books. So many beautiful books. I am hoping to get to this soon, and now I have to get to it soon because I'm talking about it. Then we have the Ira Levin books. So I actually got 4 of them. One of them is currently on loan to friend Demi, who has her own channel. Rosemary's Baby I loved, and that's why I bought a copy, because I read it before I bought it. It's super creepy, satanic panic type story. The Stepford Wives, I have a standalone review. I'll put that up in the corner. Really creepy 1950s housewife stuff, the 70s movie creeped me out. I like the newer movie better because the ending gave me comfort, but the way the movie ends, the way the new movie ends is not the way the old movie ends. The old movie ends like the book ends, and it's creepy. And if you want something short and slow-paced creepy, that is your book. So The Boys from Brazil, I have not read yet. This one is about, like, World War III, Fourth Reich. They're trying to make the Fourth Reich, and the author reimagines Joseph Mengel's nightmarish plot. And yeah, it looks really interesting, and it's one of those, I gotta read that next, and I just haven't picked it up, because of course I haven't, because distractions. Trying to organize as I go. Daphne du Maurier, The Birds and Other Stories. I'm trying to work my way through all of Daphne du Maurier's books. This is my third one of hers that I've read. I loved it. I think I liked it even more than her other short story collection, which is Don't Look Now and Other Stories. That collection made me realize, hey, I actually do enjoy short stories. And then I got this one and really liked it. So short stories are slowly becoming more of a part of my reading when they weren't previously, because short stories just tend to really be hit and miss, and as a collection I tend to be really meh, but I loved this. The Birds was not actually my favorite story in this. Like, it was good, but there was an apple tree one that was creepier and better for me. Maybe it wouldn't have made such a good movie, I don't know. And then I had initially owned the first two paperback or mass market paperbacks of the Mistborn series, and I got the third one at an airport, and it was signed, and I passed those on to my mom so she can enjoy the story. And I got these beautiful puppies. I'm more of a paperback person than a hardcover person, but these covers are just gorgeous. So got those copies just for me. I'll read them again someday. Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I finally got around to reading this. I am interested in reading Mallory. The reviews that I've heard on it so far, it sounds like it's good, but it wasn't necessary, which makes me a little nervous, but I liked this. Gave me the creepy vibes. I like the way the monster is really built up in people's minds. It had all the moodiness. I really like Josh Malerman. I'd like to read Mallory just to read something that he's written, because I also have The House at the Bottom of the Lake written by him. That was a novella, and again, just really loved it. I think he's got something going there, and he's one of those that's helping me work my way into the horror genre. Speaking of horror, oh, this failed book. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. I got, oh, my bookmark's still in here. I finished on page 347. Where this blue tab starts is where all the appendices start, so I got through quite a bit of it. I only have like that much left, but even with not that many words per page, I was buddy reading this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 different people in 2 or 3 different buddy reading groups, and I could not finish this. And I think there was, 2 people who finished the book, and they enjoyed it, but also, was it worth all of this? It's such a cool setup, where you've got this house that's bigger on the inside than the outside, and it's creeping people out, and they're making films of it, and you're having this person who's studying the papers that are written about it. But there's just so much going on, and there's parts of it that drag and parts of it that are really interesting, so the pacing was kind of inconsistent, and I'm probably not going to finish it, but I worked so hard on it, and also I've annotated it like crazy in both pen and pencil, and I just don't think I'm going to be able to give up this copy, even though I don't think I'm ever going to try reading it again. You know, it's just one of those, it's going to have to sit on the shelf and be like, you tried. This shows the effort that you put in. All right, The House of Special Purpose. That is a kind of Anastasia retelling. So you have this guy who is a guard in the Romanoff household, and eventually you do come across the House of Special Purpose. If you don't know what that is the place where all the Romanovs were killed. Mass murder. Yeah, it was predictable. I had an idea of how it was going to end, and it went that way, because whenever you include Anastasia in a book, like, there's really not a lot of leeway there. You probably know how that book's going to end. I enjoyed it. It was not my favorite John Boyne by any means, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it, and I believe I unhauled that. Like a season or two ago. Then we have 100 Vicious Little Vampire Stories, which a friend found at a bookstore and told me I should buy it, so I did. You guys all recognize this from earlier in the year whenever I mentioned it like every month and said, hey, I worked on it a little bit. Yeah, I'm on page 152 out of 500 and some. It's 100 little vicious little vampire stories. They're short stories about vampires. Most of them I'm really enjoying. Like, overall, this is a solid 3.5 stars. There's been 1 or 2 stories that have really been a miss for me. Not necessarily because they were bad, but because the stories just kind of felt lazy. But a lot of these are really creative takes on vampires that I wouldn't think of. One of them is this plant. I'm assuming it's a rose bush, and its thorns really want to prick the guy, and the guy's just not having it, and he just sees it as a rose bush that needs to be tamed. So that was kind of funny. That was neat. I'm enjoying it. I don't know what it is. There's 100 of these, and I like it. I'm liking picking it up every now and then. But I think one of the issues that I'm finding with short stories is that when I finish a story, it's kind of done. It's like, I hear people complain about series sometimes whenever you have, let's say, take Bird Box. Bird Box now has a second book, and people said the second book felt unnecessary because they felt like this was wrapped up. That's kind of what reading short stories feels like. I'm enjoying them a lot more than I used to. I didn't used to read short story collections at all. I didn't really like them. And I'm finding ones that I like. But when I'm done with a short story, I feel done. And I don't necessarily feel the drive to start the next story because I've already finished a story. So I think that's why this book is taking so long. So even if I don't finish it by the next season, I am still going to hold on to it and still going to be reading it because I am reading it and enjoying it. I'm just really taking my time with it. I don't think it's ever taken me that long to read a book. Even House of Leaves didn't quite take me that long. Salem's Lot. I've already read this. I wasn't totally in love with it. I felt like it was a knockoff Dracula. Reading more about it now, it feels like it's more Dracula retelling. I do want to reread this eventually because with how many characters were in this, I don't think audio was the way to go for me. Also, this super creepy cover. Love it. Having read it already, I don't have to read it by the next season. I'll probably try and pick it up in October again. But yeah, enjoying that. And then we have my Isaac Asimov collection. I had already bought I, Robot the season before and really, really liked it, so I went ahead and got the rest of the series. There's one book that I don't have because it seemed like it was 2 of the short story collections plus a couple of other stories, so it just didn't feel necessary to add that. I am almost finished with this series. Robots and Empire is the only one I have left that I have to read, so I will definitely pick that up in the next month or 2. The books have been so-so. Like, I really love the concepts that Asimov comes up with. The I, Robot short stories I loved. The rest of the robots was here and there. Caves of Steel, the only reason I didn't like it, I think, was just because you're kind of jumping into this world and going on with the story without learning much about the world. But having gotten through that, I enjoyed the world a lot better. I felt like I understood it better. The Naked Sun was great. Then the Robots of Dawn, I think, again, the concepts were really interesting, but it was such a slow, dialogue-heavy story. And I'm really hoping that Robots and Empire can just seal it and be great. And then I'm probably going to move on to his mini, trilogy before I move on to Foundation. Probably sometime in the next year or 2. It's a lot of books to get through. All right, next up is Margaret Atwood. So there's a Margaret Atwood focused reading for the What the Book Club Read book club with Victoria from What Victoria Read. I got The Edible Woman, which I read in January. Yeah, read in January. Didn't like it when I started it in college, really liked it now. It's definitely more literary, so it's not something I would typically like, but I liked the concept of it. You have this woman with a boyfriend, and she gets engaged, and she just doesn't feel super happy about it, and feels like she's supposed to be a certain kind of person. I liked it. Then we have Alias Grace and the Blind Assassin, which we have not gotten to in the book club yet, but I have those books ready whenever we get to them, and I also got a copy of Oryx and Crake. These two were a Christmas gift from my mom. I don't know, I know we're going to read at least one of these this year. I don't know that I'm going to read both of them this year, because Margaret Atwood has a lot of novels, and we're going in publishing order. I got a copy of Oryx and Crake at my local used bookstore. This is the one that I've heard the most about. I don't really know anything about it except that it's a dystopia. But outside of The Handmaid's Tale, it's the book whose name comes up the most. In Cold Blood, like I said previously, I got this, and it was, I think, the first true crime story that I've ever read. And it was written like a novel, but it's actually a nonfiction, and I really like that style. I was listening to the audiobook from Libby and saw that one of the ladies at the Friends of the Library was cleaning this off, and I'm like, I will take that copy. Last book that we have is What We See When We Read. This is a really cool concept. It's like, what is your brain... I was thinking it was more of a science book, like what does your brain see whenever you're reading a book? And it's more of a philosophy, so some parts of it can get a little dry and heavy, but the way it's split up and illustrated makes it really digestible. So if that's your kind of thing, if you want a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of science, if you want to read about reading, then highly recommend. I think that's it. These are the books that I have not read yet, and these are the ones that I need to focus on reading. So I will try and get those out of the way. I should probably do the obligatory book stack pickup and probably put all of the mass paperbacks on top, because that's going to make my life easier. Because I've tried to put the mass market paperbacks on the bottom before for some odd self-torturous reason. Hello, kitty. One of the kitties wants in. Amadeus, would you like to go at the top of the book stack? I don't know what you're waiting for, buddy.
Going to the gym.
You're going to the gym? Okay. He wants food, but food time has already passed, and he has already been fed. He also hates a closed door. I don't know, guys. I am ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Sorry for the sounds. You're sitting in my pen drawer right now. Do I got this? Nope. I barely got this. But I got this. Okay. This will make a great thumbnail, I'm sure. Oh god, I have no strength. Yeah, okay. Like, subscribe, make fun of me in the comments. Bye, friends.